Hey, so it's great to be here, and it's a privilege to be speaking to this class at Rotman. I'm curious, how many people here have done pitches or have done presentations or have had to speak to a board or have had to address an audience where you're either trying to get money from them or you're trying to persuade them? Good. Okay, and how successful have you been in that process? We can go with half honesty because we kind of want to look good in front of each other, right? So sometimes have you had failures and sometimes have you had successes? Can we agree with that? Okay. So what were some of the things that you experienced where you had success? Let's just go for the high notes. And make it short.
Something that they can relate to.
Okay. Relatable? Yep.
So I was doing fundraising and from an organization, I researched in advance
Yep.
the cause they've already been given to, and I tried similar in the presentation.
Awesome.
That was helpful.
Anything?
A theory sequence.
Sorry?
Theory sequence.
Ah, okay. So what has persuaded you guys? I'm just going to jump around because I don't want to spend too much time on this because we're going to look at enhancing your skills, because obviously you guys have some skills, right? You've had some successes. Can we all acknowledge that? You guys, gotten forward with that? So what would help you get further ahead, basically, in that sense? What would help you to be able to close more deals, or what would help you to be able to convince people with things that you've heard? What are some of the worst things that you see happen in front of a room? The crash and burn moments. Yes?
When you think you've identified a problem that you're pitching for to the client,
Yep.
you're completely wrong with that problem. You haven't done enough research, you don't have enough time to do the research to find out what their problem is and what you're pitching for.
Okay, so you're pitching from your perspective rather than doing enough listening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes?
When it's scripted and there's no passion involved.
Okay, very key point. Script is not necessarily a problem. Lack of passion, huge problem, right?
Lack of feeding on the crowd, or like the
Yes. Yeah, so like the crowd relationship is, right? Everybody's on their Blackberries. Everybody's like, please let it end. Please let it end. Can I plan my vacation now?
like just monotone and there's no
Modulation, so voice has something to do with it, right? So has anybody ever been to a presentation where they can hardly hear the person speak at the front of the room, and it's like this, and then you're like, kill me now. And the person's actually maybe really interesting, right? There was one vice president I worked with at a bank. You couldn't hear her across a boardroom table. Brilliant person. She's now an SVP. She worked with me, thank you very much. It did make a huge difference, actually. She did a presentation on wealth management shortly after we worked together. And there were 200 people in the room at CIBC, and I don't know if you know the room on King Street, but it's very wide and it's very narrow, which is like, this is wide and narrow, but it's not 200 people wide and 20 people narrow. It's really difficult space to work in. They actually had to shut down questions on a topic like wealth management, which usually is pretty dry, right? They had to shut down questions. People were lining up to talk to her afterwards. So part of it is your passion. So I'll give you a little bit of background on why that is and what my background is. I started out training and studying the speaking voice, the singing voice, psychophysical work. I can tell you how your arches affect your projection. Really, actually I can. I can also tell you how your butt muscles affect your projection, which is slightly inappropriate in a university, so we're not going to go there. But, there's a whole package that comes along with you that has to do with your physicality in front of a room, right? And we're going to look at a little bit of that, but mostly what we're going to look at today is how you can connect your passion forward and also how you can get ideas heard, right? Because who here likes not being heard? How many people have ever not been heard on a topic that they really wanted to be heard on? I know I have. But it's usually when I want to get something across and I'm emotionally charged about it and I'm not paying attention necessarily to what I already know and teach, right? Okay, sometimes we get that in business, sometimes we get that in our personal life. I don't think that that's anything to be ashamed of, but when you're really working to get a point across, it's really important to understand one thing. And what is the biggest thing that we all fail at when we're trying to get a point across that's a new idea specifically? What is the one thing? And there is a vast silence across the room. Yes?
We all put ourselves in the other people's shoes.
yes and no. I'm gonna throw it out there just because we've only got so much time today. The thing that we miss. Sorry, do you want to contribute? Okay. She's like, she's not listening to me. We're talking about listening. Hypocrite. So, sometimes I'm going to be able to take your questions, and other times I'm going to move along just because we only have so much time today. Okay. Other times I'm totally open to hearing everybody's input. The biggest thing that we get stuck on is understanding how people understand an idea, and this is particularly critical when you're presenting a new product. And that is that people don't hear ideas the first time they hear them. Right? How many people know that? It's kind of like when you hear a new piece of music, and this is the easiest way to understand it. When you hear a new piece of music, what is it like? It's kind of like, huh? Oh, interesting, right? But it's not like, yeah, that's my song. I remember driving down the road. The windows were open. It was an amazing day, right? So the first time you hear a song, you're just kind of like, it's just kind of there. And you hear a theme in that song. But maybe the third or fourth time you hear that theme, you're like, yeah, it's got a groove, man. I can get into this. This is awesome, right? And then you're like, damn, I got to play that again, right? And you play it again. You're like, yeah, this is really good. I like this. How many people understand that that's actually how we understand ideas? Does that make sense? Okay. How many people have organized their pitch today to incorporate that idea? I'm going to guess it's a big flat 0. Because we don't think about ideas like that. We don't understand that how we think is fundamentally structured the same way we relate to music. Because underneath ideas, there's a musical underpinning. That's a bigger conversation. We're just going to leave that to the side. But if you look at music as a fundament, right? If you have 2 musical instruments, one of them's out of pitch, do you know what happens to the other instrument? It goes out of pitch, right? So musical instruments have a tendency to harmonize together. And when you hear an idea, you're dealing with something called sympathetic resonance, right? Because when you're in a group and one person's kind of bopping along to an idea, or they've got there's an idea or a piece of music, you're kind of like, oh, that's interesting. What's going on over there? They're bopping. How come they're bopping? I'm not bopping. Why are they bopping? And then you're like, oh, I'm going to try bopping. Oh, wait. Hey, this feels kind of good, right? And it's the same thing with ideas as it is with music. We adapt to our environment to some extent. We adapt to those that are around us, right? So how many people does that make sense to? Am I tracking with you guys? Are you ready to throw me out the room already? I don't know. Where are we? Yes? No? We're good?
What about people like Simon Cowell who hear a song and see the potential 10 steps ahead? Or someone like
yes,
a venture capitalist on Shark Tank who can just hear 30 seconds of an idea. Have they trained themselves to be like that, or are they just talented?
I would say yes and no. Depends on the venture capitalist, and it depends on other pieces to that puzzle. Simon Cowell actually has a good ear, but he's looking at a couple of things. He's not just looking at the musicality, he's looking at the marketability. So he actually has a pretty good bead on whether something is marketable. And the other thing that you feel from a presenter and also from an entrepreneur is their drive. Remember you spoke about passion? How many people here think Richard Branson is credible in part because he is very passionate? Yeah, right? He's got some guns behind him. And it's not just because he has Virgin, it's also because you're like, damn, he's just going to throw himself off a cliff. I don't know what he's going to do, but I want to be around to see what happens, right? Or, Elon Musk, you're kind of like, what happened there? What? Because they just throw themselves out into these huge ideas and trust and drop. And they don't care whether they fail or succeed, because not every idea that they have succeeds, right? And that's something super important to remember. Right? How many people here are afraid of failing? Right? Who likes it? No, I don't. Who does? Right? And when you're in a school environment, school's all about doing it right? Getting the right mark and all of that. When you switch out into the workspace, does anybody care if you do it right? Really? Really? They want to know if you're going to make them some money. Right? Whether you're going to add some value to their team, whether you're good to work with, whether you can deliver on the idea. So there's two things I want you to think about. One is that people don't hear ideas the first time. Second, well, actually, we're going to go for three, because we've kind of brought it in here from the back corner. It's actually one of the most important things. So people don't hear ideas the first time. Your passion is credible, right? That's something that maybe you don't think about when you get up in the middle of the morning and you're kind of like, coffee. So ask yourself, why are you here? Why are you investing in your education? Why are you doing life, right? What is it that makes you crackle and sizzle? Because when you get up here and you talk about a product, you want to make sure that you know what you're crackling and sizzling about. Because that's going to be so much more interesting to watch, right? Have you ever seen one of your classmates get up and they're talking passionately about it and you're like, damn, yeah. They could talk about Cheerios and you'd be like, yeah. Really, Cheerios, yes. Right? How many people have had that experience? You're like, I want those Cheerios. Why do they have so many? Right? You have to take a leap, and everybody's flavor of Cheerios is unique, right? Like every personality in this room is unique. Everybody's passion is unique. But it always brings power to the presence of the person who's standing in front of the room, whatever that is, right? Some people are kind of like, I am the lake of silent strength, right? I'm like that if I've done a lot of meditating and I get up and I'm like, I'm the lake of silent strength for 5 minutes. You know, because this is more my, like personalities are different for every person, right? So it's true, right? I mean, anybody does enough meditation, they're going to get up and they'll be like, temporary Buddha. I'm good, right? And then afterwards they're like, Drake, we need to listen to some Drake, or, the Rolling Stones is on, I'm so happy. Like everybody's got their own style. So you need to own your style. That's what makes you unique. Does that make sense? How many people try not to be their own style when they're in front of a room? Everybody who's ever gone to school, please put up their hand. How many people imitate a teacher that they saw in grade 2 when they had to get up to the front of the room and they were like, okay, hold on, I'm recording this for myself. I'm like, okay, Mrs. Jones made me get up in front of the room. Now I have to do a talk. I hate this. I'm going to hide behind the podium over here. And this person is like burning with intelligence, right? They've got tons to give and they're like, I don't want to be here. If I disappear into the wall, no one will see me. Right? How many people have ever felt like that? Yes? No? Did you know that the number one fear in the world above death is public speaking? Do you feel better? Okay. Right. So when you think about, first of all, you're going to come up against fear. Who here understands that? That's just a fact. When you're going to do some public speaking, who here knows they're going to get that like, all right. Breathe out. It's okay. It's normal. Everybody gets it. It's not a big deal. Okay? First of all, there are some people that I've worked with. Okay, I should actually go back and tell you what I've actually done. So I've worked with Jeff Smith at Ellis Dawn. I've worked with CEOs of major hospitals. I've worked with a professor at a competing business school who now gets the top rated. Anyway, she does very well. So I've helped people get keynotes that never used to get keynotes. They'd ask to be, they'd be requested for panels, but certainly not keynotes, right? Because of their credibility, they'd get onto a panel, but a panel you can bury somebody into other people. If you, right? Like that's just a fact, right? Okay, you've got 3 half-decent speakers. This one's a dud. We'll just throw them in. We won't, maybe they have a few good points. So, but to be asked to keynote, you actually have to have something to say, right? Yes? No? Right? Because you're like alone in the desert that is a stage, right? So when you actually do a keynote, you have to have something to give. Of course, there are people who are asked to give keynotes and you're like, why did they do this to us? Why? Why now? Why me? Okay? And then I'm like, please hand them my card. Please. Okay, so, sorry, that's just me being a jerk. When you actually have to say something in front of a room, again, keynote, right? The person's passion wasn't present. They're up there and they're talking away and they're really into what they're talking about and they're completely abstracted and they're not connecting to the people in the room and they're looking down and you're supposed to stay with them and they're talking about things that are really fascinating and could change the world. And you're like, don't do this to me now. Why are you doing this to me? Okay, so again, we come back to the whole idea of passion, themes. Ideas need to be repeated like a musical theme, okay? So when you're building these presentations, think about it. How does this repeat like a piece of music? You know when a piece of music has this theme, it's not the chorus, but it kind of comes back again. You're like, oh, I know that. You know, it like haunts you, okay? You want to haunt these people. You want to haunt them with your ideas, secretly. So I'm going to give you a little clip here from a guy who does a really good talk at TED. He did this a couple years ago. And I find it to be a fascinating topic. It also deals with something called stats. How many people here think a topic called stats could be anything other than kill me now boring, right? Okay, you've got one taker in the room. All right, let's take a look at this and see what it's all about.